Good morning children. Welcome back to this video. Look here. Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. Vision with action can change the world. Vision with action can change the world. If you want to change something bigger, we will need a bit more practice, bit more hard work, bit more planning. Of course. So children, please take more planning, work hard in right direction to reach your destination. Okay, come back to this topic. The protective mechanism, up to the protective mechanism of eye, we have completed in the previous class. I think so. Okay, so today we are going to study about the anatomy of eye, the structure of the eye. We have studied it is eyeball. So it is well protected inside the orbit of the skull. With the help of muscles, it is fixed in that orbit. So the eyeball, when we take the anatomy, when we take the section, what about its structure? Then what about its function? That means the functions of each and every part of the eye. All these things we are going to study in detail. So the important parts of eye, the protective layers of eye, mainly they are three. One is sclera, and second one is choroid, and third one is retina. Then some more points you can see, they are have labeled pupil, cornea, iris, lens, aqueous chamber, aqueous humor, and so on. So we can study detail about all these things one by one. The three important layers I mentioned, they are sclera, choroid, retina. So what is sclera? When you see your eyes in the mirror, you can see the white colored part. Actually, that white colored part is the sclera. In front of the sclera, there is a transparent portion. That portion is known as the cornea. That part, we cannot see that white color. It is transparent front portion of the sclera. Transparent front portion of the sclera is known as the cornea. So, what is the importance? Why it is transparent? Yes, that helps to pass the light towards the eyeball, towards the retina. Then, next, second layer is the choroid. Choroid is the middle portion we can see here. So, it consists of many blood vessels. Since it is made up of blood vessels, what is its function? Can you guess it? Yes, that it provides nutrients and oxygen to all our body wherever the blood vessels are present. So that is the function of the one of the important function of the blood vessel. So here also that blood vessel provide oxygen and nourishment to the eyeball. Is it clear, children? Choroid is the second layer. It is made up of so many blood vessels. See, we have studied the front part of the sclera is known as the cornea. You can see this choroid. So, choroid, this is the choroid. The front portion of this choroid is known as the iris. What is this? Iris. Iris is the front part of the choroid. Choroid is made up of many blood vessels. And its function also we studied. Then While talking about this iris, you can see there is a small aperture. Aperture means an opening you can see. That discontinuity you can see here. So that opening, that aperture is known as pupil. That we can see in our eye when we see through the mirror. That aperture we can see behind the cornea in the iris. That opening is known as pupil. Actually, through this pupil, the light passes to the lens for focusing. That comes through the transparent part named cornea. Then from the cornea it passes through this aperture. That aperture is known as the pupil. Then one important point while talking about the iris. Based on the presence of the pigment, the name of the pigment is melanin. Based on the presence of the pigment melanin, we can see different colors in the iris. Sometimes it is dark, sometimes it is black. If I take anatomy to study the anatomy of my eye, you can see the black colored portion in the iris. Like that, in all of your eyes, you just see through the mirror and find out what color is it. It is due to the presence of melanin. Depends upon the quantity of the melanin, it varies its color. So choroid is the middle layer. Front portion of the choroid is known as the iris. This is known as the iris. In the iris, we can see there is an opening or aperture. That is known as the pupil. Then what about the third layer? Yes, third layer is known as retina. Images are formed in this retina. Third layer or the innermost layer, that is known as retina. Images are formed in this retina. See, before talking about the retina, here one more important part that I didn't mention, so please listen here. This part is known as lens. Convex lens is present. That is present behind the iris. Then we can see here ciliary muscles and ligaments. So about the ciliary muscles, how are the ciliary muscles and radial muscles arranged throughout the lens? All these things we can study in another session. So here we are talking about the structure of eye, the function of these parts and all we will study later. So here we can see convex lens that is present behind the iris. Then retina is the innermost layer. In the retina, there are two important parts. One is yellow spot and another one is blind spot. What do you mean by yellow spot? We have studied photoreceptors are present in the eye. The receptors which are stimulated in the presence of light, they are known as photoreceptors. Photo means light. Photoreceptors. Here in the yellow spot, the photoreceptors are present plenty. Plenty of photoreceptors are present in the yellow spot. So that portion, vision is more. Then another part is blind spot. Blind spot, these photoreceptors are absent and there is no vision at all. Here you can see another term, that is optic nerve. Optic nerve is originated from the eyeball, this portion, and what is its function? It carries impulses to the brain. That carries impulses to the brain. That which means through the cornea, light through the cornea, pupil, light enters to the lens. From the lens forms a correct image and help us to view things very clearly. So about that functioning of each part of the eye that we can study in another session. So here we are talking about the yellow spot and blind spot. These two important parts are present in the retina. Then there is a chamber which is present between the lens and cornea. That chamber is known as this portion. That chamber is known as aqueous chamber. There is a fluid present inside it. That fluid is known as aqueous humor. What is the function of this aqueous humor? It is produced from the blood and it is also reabsorbed to the blood. Its function is provides oxygen and nourishment to the eyeball. The another chamber that is present between lens and the retina, that chamber is known as vitreous chamber. And the fluid which is present in the vitreous chamber is known as vitreous humor. Its function is that maintains the shape of the eyeball. Vitreous humor maintains the shape of the eyeball. The other term we used instead of vitreous humor, that is vitreous fluid. Similarly, the other term for aqueous humor is aqueous fluid. So, is it clear, children? Yes, children, here is a model of the eye. As we studied, it consists of 3 layers: sclera, choroid and retina. So, this is the eyeball we have studied. It is a ball-like structure. That's why it is eyeball. It is well protected inside the orbit of the skull. But how do we see the eye? When we see others' eye, we can see like this only. You imagine, these are the eyelids. See, here, these are the eyelids, upper eyelid and lower eyelid. We can see our eye like this only. Then here, some white portion. I have already told you this part is known as the sclera. So, the sclera portion, you see, when we remove the eyelids, we can see sclera in this manner. So, actually, the outermost layer is known as the sclera. When we take the cross section, anatomy of the eyeball, we can see what we are going to see. Listen here. So, transparent front portion of the iris, this portion is known as cornea. I just lift up the upper part of the sclera, then you can see the cornea. You will be able to see this cornea. This is known as the cornea. So, when we remove this cornea as well as the sclera completely, you can see the middle layer. That middle layer is known as the choroid. Middle layer is the choroid. Then here also, if we take the anatomy or the cross section of the choroid, you can see all the parts which are present in the choroid. Mainly its function is, since it is made up of blood vessels, its function is to provide oxygen and nourishment. So, the front part of the choroid is known as iris. We have studied, depends on the quantity of the melanin, its color varies. Similarly, one more important point. In the iris, there is an aperture, there is an opening. This opening is known as this pupil. Okay, so behind the cornea, we have studied behind the cornea. This is the cornea. Cornea, we can see the iris. In the middle of the iris, there is an opening, there is an aperture that is known as pupils. Can you see this pupil? This aperture, are you able to see, my dear children? Okay, so this is known as the pupil. So if we place the cornea in its place, we can see actually this is the correct method. Then the choroid, when we take the cross section or when we see the anatomy, choroid we are going to remove. So behind this pupil we can see the lens. So this part, this is the lens. Convex lens is present. It is a model only. So this is known as the lens, this convex lens. Convex lens. Okay. Next, innermost layer. The innermost layer is retina. So this innermost layer is the retina. Inside the retina we can see blind spot as well as the yellow spot. All these are marked here, but it is, you will not be able to see very clearly. Okay. Then optic nerve, you can see here, this portion is known as the optic nerve. Then you will get a correct idea. It is the structure of the eyeball. Actually, it looks like a ball when we rearrange it. So once again, listen here, we are going to rearrange it. So fix the lens here first. That is actually present behind the pupil. Then when we keep the second layer, that is middle layer, choroid. Okay. Then fix the another part of the choroid. Then like this we will get. Next we are going to arrange the cornea. Before that we have to keep one part of the sclera. Then only we can easily fix this cornea here. Okay, then upper part of the cornea also, if we fix here, we will get a good model of the eye. Actually, this is the model. Okay, I think students, you will get a good idea regarding the structure of eye. I think it is very, very clear to you. So that's all about today's class. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you, children.